I'm Avery Bradford. I'm head of programming and events for Female Founder Collective and the 10th House. And today is a celebration of the 10th House. We have been here for a year. I have been here since the beginning of the 10th House, not Female Founder Collective, but we're so excited to have our co-founders here today. We have Rebecca Minkoff and Alison Wyatt. And before we got started, we had you all submit your questions. We had, I believe, over 200 questions come in, which is very exciting. We're taking priority to our Blue Sky members. So we're going to blaze through and get as many questions covered as we can. But before we get started, I'd love to know where you're all joining us from. If you could pop your location into the chat, I will do that now as well. I am joining you all from Denver. We've got, of course, California and NYC. You're always our first here. We've got lots of Brooklyn and Virginia and LA. Beautiful Canada. Love seeing you in the house. Okay, India, welcome. Okay. Welcome, everyone. All right, I'm going to head into intros because, like I said, we have a lot of ground to cover today in our one-year celebration of the 10th House. Today, we are going to be speaking with Alison Wyatt. She's co-founder of the 10th House and Female Founder Collective. She's an angel investor, former CRO, champion of women, business builder, and endlessly curious seeker. And if you all are interested and are members of the 10th House or the collective or the constellation, head into the workshop straight after this. Alison is actually going to be hosting, I don't know why I called her Alison, she does go by Allie. Allie is going to be hosting a workshop directly after this event, all about angel investors, and she's an expert in that space, obviously. And then we also have here with us today, Rebecca Minkoff. She is also the co-founder of the 10th House and Female Founder Collective. She's designer, author, Web3 leader, innovator, podcaster. What doesn't she do? I'm so excited. Ladies, I'm going to introduce you all and get you all on stage. And then I'm going to head off of the stage and answer or start throwing out the questions that you all submitted. The first question, ladies, while you all join us, Ellie, yes, welcome. Hello.
Hi, everybody. Thanks for joining us today from everywhere. That's so exciting. I was going to swear. Can I swear? That's so fucking exciting that you're from all over the world. In India, shout out to you.
Yes, we have London, UK. We have Vancouver. We have
Nice.
It's really amazing that you all are joining us from all over the world. And that's one of the reasons why we love doing these virtual events. Allie, I think your screen is stuck off. Let me see if I can.
Dang, it won't let her start the video.
Yep, let me get your video back on. All right, just requested you to join. Rebecca and Allie, I'm going to kick off with a question about co-founders because so many of our founders are seeking a co-founder or partnership in this way. So how did you two become co-founders? What's the origin story?
We were on a panel many, many years prior. Were you at Refinery then?
I was at Refinery then. Yes, I was at Refinery.
Then we met up when you were at Girl Boss, and my brother and I would talk about Allie, not knowing it was Allie, but like, how are they doing all this? It's so incredible. And then I had an of FFC in September of 2018, and I got a October, and I was jumping up and down. I was like, oh my God, I was more any guy that had emailed me, and I've been married for a while. So, but I was like, oh my God, finally someone who really can understand how to shape this and run it and help me build this, because I still have a day job. So we talked on the phone, and I don't know what you want to share from that, Allie, about what you saw as the vision for FFC.
Yeah, that's
it was very serendipitous timing, but I think when you're looking at co-founders, there's so many sort of factors that you want to make sure it's going to give the relationship longevity. I loved how communicative Rebecca was from the onset about what she wanted to do, what she didn't want to do. And what was nice is inherently they didn't overlap. But sort of funny story that I'm sure a lot of you all can relate to if you follow Rebecca. But I also saw her at Cannes sitting on the floor of the bathroom. Like it was like the sexiest place to be. And yet she's like on the floor in the bathroom pumping. And it was a nice bathroom. So, but she's on the floor pumping in between panels. And I was amazed because here she was, you know, halfway around the world. And I think she had just had her third baby. And I had 2 kids and had wanted 3. And she, you know, looked like she made it possible. And so when she launched Female Founder Collective, I had been a girl boss and I had seen that the biggest sort of segment of our audience that was the most engaged were founders, and they needed resources, but above all, they needed connections to one another. So it was sort of that perfect moment. I was leaving Girl Boss and thinking about how I wanted to serve female founders. And Rebecca had launched this amazing initiative in order to do so. And so we got together and we had very much shared beliefs and visions around where we wanted to take it. And then we also, one of the first things we did was we sat down and determined who's going to do what, which I think is one of the biggest things. And she's like, I don't want to be a CEO. And here's what I do want to do. And I was like, well, great. Like, I'd love to be the CEO and here's what I want to do. And it very much aligned. But I think that's probably the most important thing as you scale out, is that you ensure that you're not sort of butting heads or stepping on toes with one another.
Yeah, that's such a good point. The comparing of not only your interests, but your talents is key to creating a cohesive co-founder relationship.
And what you're terrible at.
Yeah.
I think that's really good to admit what you're bad at, because then you hopefully compare yourself with someone who isn't.
Yeah,
Right.
So true. And when you met, you all chatted about Female Founder Collective, but how did that turn into the 10th house? And what is the 10th house for people joining who don't know what it is?
So Rebecca, I'll take this one if good by you.
Yeah.
So Female Founder Collective, when it launched, was really, it wasn't sort of as formalized, but it was a way to signify that you were a female founded business, so that at retail, point of sale, people could vote with their wallets, right? And support women at scale wherever they were trying to transact goods. So when it came to 10th house, we actually had a Slack channel. We started learning about what people wanted as founders and what was important to them. And so we really wanted to formalize a way for women to be able to reach each other by stage, by industry, by geography, but also for there to be a regular way for them to get education and get upskilled on knowledge that they were absolutely needing in that moment based off of pain points they were experiencing in their business. So that's where the lovely Avery came in and really structured our programming to ensure that you guys have opportunity to access a library full of content as well as live content as it relates to creating customer acquisition models, or what are the best email service providers, or how do you think about exiting your business, and what are ways you can protect your business from the onset. All these things that we're sort of seeing and watching in the community. So the 10th house has been really formalized as a community platform for you all to reach each other, first and foremost, but also to get access to education as well as highly vetted resources that you all are giving each other, but we're also going out and searching for you.
100%. I love that. And I'm so excited to celebrate 1 year today. So we have 20 minutes left. The two of you are about to get some rapid fire questions. Like I said, we had over 200 questions come in. We are prioritizing questions from our Blue Sky member, which is our top tier membership. They get exclusive opportunities such as this. So I'm going to jump right in with the first question, which is for you, Rebecca. This is from Anne Nguyen Oliver. Anne asks, I've been working on my business for 5 years now, 3 years since it launched. And although we continue to grow year by year, we haven't experienced a breakthrough moment yet. Did you experience a breakthrough moment with your business and suddenly the mass know about your brand, or was it gradual?
I would say that when I launched, I had this t-shirt that was, not fortuitously timed with 9/11, but happened to be embraced because of 9/11. It was this I Love New York shirt. So I had a big press momentum, and then, you think that's it, you've made it. And then you have to take that and ride it and know what to do with it. And so while I made that shirt every day in my apartment for 9 months, I was still broke, still couldn't pay my rent, and could barely eat. But it got my foot in the door to lots of boutiques. I could call them, I could get an appointment because they're like, I'm not sure where I've heard your name, but I've heard it. So I would say the best thing that happened from that is people didn't hang up on me. And then I worked tirelessly for 4 years, went $60,000 in debt when I launched the bag. And the thing that launched the bag was Daily Candy, if any of you are old enough to remember that beautiful, beautiful publication. And that, again, was a big lift, but it was up to me to keep this momentum going. So I think that, today the breakthroughs happen differently. There isn't this one celebrity wears something and suddenly you're huge, unless maybe it's Kate Middleton. I mean, there's a couple people that can do that for you without knowing exactly the ins and outs of your business. I think it's safer to grow slowly. It's safer to grow stably, because as much as you want that big hit, unless you have the resources, the wherewithal, and the strategy to keep up with it, it quickly goes back down. And so you just want to I'd rather have a slow growth up than a big bump, lots of media press, and it goes away and everyone forgets about you because they have ADD from being on their cell phone. So I think slow and steady wins the race for sure.
Yeah, appreciating that gradual growth is very important. Allie, we had a couple of questions come in for you. I'm going to wrap them up into one similar question. We had Ann Kierns, Elizabeth Wellburn, April Locker, and Jennifer Newton submit similar questions. And that is, what were some of the biggest setbacks when you first launched your businesses? And what did you do to navigate the situation? This could be from a past company. This could even be the 10th House or Female Founder Collective, wherever you want to take this.
Oh man, there are setbacks every single day. So that's one thing I would say. I'm really big on planning, and I think that even though it's really easy for businesses to fail, not to sound Debbie Downer, it's also relatively easy for them not to fail. Here's what I mean by that. Hear me out. If you actually do the math and you budget your business and you have a very clear roadmap and plan, you shouldn't ever get to the point where you're like, oh my gosh, I'm all of a sudden out of business. Now you're going to be growing at different rates at different times. And it depends on whether you've gone out and gotten funding, or how you're funded as a business. But Female Founder Collective is bootstrapped, for example. We operate it the same way that I operated Girl Boss, where with Girl Boss, we had funding, where I had to watch and see what did our cash look like, what were our operating expenses. And I highly recommend doing it on a weekly basis so that you're never in a point where you go, oh my gosh, we're going to be $100,000 short next month, or, which sounds kind of crazy, but I've met just so many founders that have ended up in that situation, and you can avoid it, which is great. But what I would say is putting yourself in position to be in position. I feel like that's a great life lesson, but in general for business, it's a great lesson as well, in that if, like Rebecca's talking about, you have this huge moment, right, where somebody really famous wears your clothes, or you get an awesome press hit, be in position to be able to take advantage of that moment. And I think it's hard to sort of think that way, but always be ready to sort of kick into the next gear if the business requires it. And on the alternative, always be prepared for a worst case scenario as well. And that all can be done with like constantly looking at your budget and your model, and also constantly be talking to talent, so that when you do need to make that next hire in community, or you do need to make that next hire in merchandising or growth marketing, you're ready to pull the trigger on somebody relatively quickly, because otherwise it's going to take you, 3 or 4 months. So I don't know if that really succinctly answers that question. But I think setbacks are inevitable, and you can ensure that they don't take you out. They might take you down for a moment, but they're never gonna take you out of business.
I think those are great actionable tips for exactly what you said. Don't let them take you out. Rebecca, we have a question for you from Chloe Homan. And Chloe asks, scaling with inventory overhead is tough as a bootstrap company. So do you have a recommendation on how to raise, or if you should raise without giving up a huge piece of your company?
Yes, we did it for 7 long years. There are companies that do inventory financing. In the fashion industry, it's called a factor. They will advance on your purchase orders, which allows you to use that money to, again, purchase your inventory, and they will collect a percentage. They're also nice in the beginning as you're growing, because you often don't have the the muscle to collect from some of these bigger stores, the Saks and even Marcus's, so they'll be the muscle and collect from those. And we actually continued to use them even after we raised, because it was just another way to allow for capital to come in while we went through our shipping and production cycle. So you can do that. Shopify also offers loans, and then they take a piece of every sale. I think there's a lot of creative ways to access that type of capital, so that you don't have to immediately give up equity. I think when you have product market fit, when you have heat behind the brand, when you're showing huge growth potential, when people are coming to you, that's a good time to give up a piece of your company, because you'll sell a lot less for a lot more. That's not always possible. But I think exploring those other avenues are good ways to start.
And that leads us really nicely into our next question from T. Rodriguez, which is for you, Allie, and that is, what is the best approach to scaling when you are bootstrapping a business? And I know there are so many, but what are some of your favorites?
Well, it's a good question, because we're constantly going through that as well. I don't know that I have a perfect answer to that. What I would say is, again, it goes back to, not to harp on constantly sort of watching your model, but also model out scenarios where, okay, so where are my biggest revenue opportunities, right? So looking at return on investment, but based off of the different sort of revenue sources that you're looking at for your business. So you might be contemplating creating one type of product. And what you might actually see is that the margins are not that great. So even though maybe that becomes your product that is sort of the hero product and it's a loss leader. And then you have something else that has great margins that's going to give you the cash flow that's going to be able to enable you to basically invest in other parts of your business that are going to be towards growth. But one of the biggest things you're going to want to look at is, what are the biggest revenue yielding pieces of my organization, right? Like if I do more marketing and my customer acquisition costs are low, let's invest a lot more there, because ultimately that's going to be able to pay for the other operational items down the line that I want. So that's a very sort of finance oriented answer. But I think when you're thinking about scaling, it's kind of playing with these different scenarios. There might be a bunch of different sort of strategies you have in your head for your business, or things that you think could be interesting. Don't just use I think it would be interesting to launch this product. Actually play with the math and see how that particular business could work, and then pursue it if the math looks good. And always create different tiers of those scenarios. So sort of least, better, best, so that you have a worst case scenario, you have a best case, and you can capitalize on both.
Such great tips. This next one is for the both of you, and it's about networking and partnerships from Christine Locker. Christine asks, first of all, she says, so many questions for both of you superstars. They would love to hear your thoughts on creating strategic advisor relationships and your experience with general business mentors and advisors. Not sure which one you want to kick this off.
When you said what is a strategic business advisorship? Just
So
to
I think
clarify.
the first one is relating more so to like business partnerships, brand partnerships, or investor partnerships. And then the second half of the question is more geared towards mentors. Was there anyone who really helped guide you, especially during those first 5 years in your career, in your business? And where did you find them?
I think that you have opportunity within 10,000 to not just have mentorships, but really foster, it's a two-way street with people. And I think that rather than look for the busiest person in the room, the CEO who can give you 10 minutes of, their time, looking in organizations for some of the, depending on what the skill is or the advice you need, some of the people that work there are far better suited to give you advice, far more available, and far more in it day to day. So I always say seek out mentorship wherever you can. Don't hope that Sarah Blakely, has time for you one day, as nice as that is. And I think with strategic partnerships, they can really help accelerate brand awareness and brand growth. We've done a lot of strategic partnerships and collaborations that have helped get the word out when we didn't have money. Many, many years ago, we did a collaboration with a watch company. We couldn't afford a fashion show. They paid for it. I designed a watch, it got the name out there. And so I think we've done so many, and we continue to do that, where we find like-minded brands and each has something to gain from it. And it helps spread the word and get new customers.
Yeah, and Allie, as an investor yourself, would love for you to help answer the first part of that and how to develop those strategic partnerships with investors or brands in general.
So I do want to acknowledge what Rebecca just said about the peer mentorship, though, because I've actually only ever had peer mentors in my life, and they've been the most impactful because they're going through the same things you're going through in this moment. A lot of times these super successful people went through it at a time when the industry was really different, frankly, and they weren't up against some of the things they are up against. So I think it depends on sort of what you're looking for, but peer mentorship for me has always been huge. But what I would say, if you're looking for a specific investor or partner, I'm going to address investors first. I would really look at first what they've invested in. You can go to Crunchbase and see, or AngelList and see where people have spent their money. A lot of times they have their own website that talks about this, or they've been on panels. They have Medium blogs that they've done that speak to how they invest and their specific strategy. Because a lot of times I'll see founders barking up the wrong tree, where they're spending a ton of time reaching out to people who will never invest in them, not because they're not amazing, but because that's just not their strategy, or and maybe it's not their sort of sweet spot in terms of their experience and background. So as far as reaching out, I would also look for warm leads. Make sure that you are finding people that are connected to that person, and then find out a little bit more about them. And if you can't get that warm lead, honestly, just showing that you've done your research and that you are diligent and customizing your outreach to that person means a lot. And you can reach out to them that way via LinkedIn. You can reach out to them, figure out what their email address is. And it's probably going to take, 5 or 6 emails if that's a busy person, but each time make sure you're adding value to their inbox, not just sending them a note, hey, pinging you again, just following up again, because everybody needs help with time management and help in their career, in their industry, no matter how successful you are. And then I would say for brand partnerships, it's what can I do for you? Not necessarily what can you do for me? So again, doing your research on that brand partner, figuring out what their goals are. And then everybody that you're working with on a brand partner side they have very specific goals. And if it's a strategic partnership where there's no money exchanged, what I would say is that I would make sure that they are aligned with the same goals, so that you guys don't get into a partnership and they want something very different that is going to create complexities and also totally ruin what you're trying to accomplish as well, right? Be very sort of mechanical and specific about what each partner needs, so that you can craft a partnership that's going to serve all of those needs and priorities.
Perfect. And I see people in the chat saying how helpful this was, and I completely agree. Rebecca, the next question is for you. I know that both of you are leaders and learners in the Web3 space. Rebecca, you are doing a lot of exciting things when it comes to fashion and Web3. This is a question from Jessica, and that is, how do you see the future of fashion shaping up with Web3 and the changing landscape? What should brands that are passionate in staying abreast do with such changes?
I think there is huge opportunity, and every brand is different. First and foremost, young and up and coming designers can actually fundraise their collections by selling NFTs. I think that as a designer, you can offer unique experiences to people that offer a lot of value and utility to the NFT that'll help drive the sales of it. So for example, if I wanted to do a collection, I didn't have the money, I'd sell not only the future garments that are produced physically when you purchase the NFT, but maybe you get to come to a fitting or a fashion show. With our NFTs that we're selling, you're getting a bag, you're getting tickets to Fashion Week. I do think there's a whole other revenue stream and customer base of people that are never, ever going to buy a physical bag. You're going to have a lot of young Gen Z, and now Alpha is what I've been told the next generation is. Where it's more important for them to buy a bag in Roblox than it is a real one. So I think you'll see companies, one being Forever 21, launched a 50-cent hoodie on Roblox. They've made $1.5 million on a 50-cent digital hoodie. So I think as more and more women come into Web3, begin to want to dress their avatars and have a presence in the metaverse, I think you'll see that they'll want to look fashionable and they'll want to rent out their closets. And so I think it's just another great way for designers to make money, to be seen, and to show up in another place. But we will still continue to need real clothes. So that is my priority.
100%. That's it. That's extraordinary. I didn't know that 50 cents to over $1 million situation with Forever 21. That's really exciting. Okay, we've only got time for one more question, possibly two. Allie, this next one is for you, and this one's from Maya. And that is, what's the best way to leverage the 10th house to help grow our companies and communities?
So I know this goes without saying, but it's something that I actually am part of a lot of different communities, and I find myself, I'll be like, oh, this community is not that helpful. What you put in is what you get out ultimately. But what I would say is go in, ask the big questions, right? If you're looking for a 3PL, or you're looking for an outsourced accounting or CFO agency, or you're trying to find a partner to work with to help grow your collective audiences, those are all things that you can leverage each other for. The other thing I would say is there's so much education in there. Like, we've brought in incredible, like literally women who have sold their businesses for $500 million, who took their companies public, have come in and had not one-on-one, but 15-to-1 conversations with you all. And like, if you're looking for mentors, you're looking for ways to connect with people like that, we try to give you the opportunity to do so, but also to learn from people that Rebecca and I admire, and Avery admires, that have accomplished the things that we're all sort of trying to do right now. So I would definitely say that's another thing you can take advantage of. And while we don't give funding ourselves, we're not a fund, we do our best to plug various funds, because we have a lot of relationships with funds, with angel investors, with different grant making bodies. And we do our best to constantly plug those in and give you guys first access to when we know, okay, this is a fund is looking for this type of founder, or, you're in the healthcare space and you're trying to raise capital. we know these funds are actually investing in femtech or in women's health or maternal health. So those are ways that we can sort of jump in as community organizers, do our best to bridge those connections as well.
Definitely, what you put in is what you get out. And we are just over our time. So I want to say thank you all for joining. If you are a Blue Sky or Constellation member, we have an event directly after this with Allie Wyatt herself about angel investors, really a deep dive into pretty much everything you need to know to get started and really hit a home run if you are looking to get investment from an angel investor or capital. So thank you all for joining. This was so exciting. Also, something that Ali mentioned is our close relationship with VCs. We have a pitch competition session happening in about 2 weeks, which is reserved for our Blue Sky members. If you are looking to get one-on-one feedback about your pitch or about your raise or your deck in general, RSVP or apply to that rather. We're letting in about 12 to 15 people. It's the first 12 to 15 to sign up, get access to that experience, and we host those a couple times a year. So thank you all for joining. Allie, I will see you in the workshop room in about 30 seconds. So thank you, Rebecca.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you all.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.